everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Andrea, and in today's video, I would like to review for you The Skeptics Guide to the Future by Dr. Steven Novella and his two associates, Bob and Jay Novella. I recently went to visit Toronto's Pioneer Village, and when I was coming out, I came across this amazing gallery or exhibition hall. I don't even know what to call it, but it had all of the history of technology, but also highlighting art and early science fiction projecting the future, which is now our past. And some of the artworks were spectacular. Some of the things that people thought up the future would look like, some things that were contemplated. There's a lot about Jules Verne and early sci-fi and contemplation of, present day and things that have already come to pass, and some of them were very far off and some of them weren't. It was just kind of interesting to see, and it was just kind of in my head. And then I went to a bookstore and I saw this book, The Skeptics Guide to the Future: What Yesterday's Science and Science Fiction Tell Us About the World of Tomorrow. So I figured that this book is kind of like picking up where this exhibit left off, looking at the things around us now and speculating about the future. And obviously I got it and read it and loved it. So I want to talk to you about it. Now, first off, Dr. Steven Novella is an academic clinical neurologist at Yale. Along with the other two people who have written or collaborated on this book, they have a podcast and it's very science focused. And for the most part, I would say that this book is also more engaging with science and contemporary technology and what people are currently working on, rather than close reading of science fiction or engaging more with the literature. But it does mention a lot of things. It mentions the Twilight Zone, it mentions some of the Jetsons and some TV shows and some movies from time to time, especially like The Matrix and a lot of things that are kind of pop culture, but it won't engage with the literature up close if you're looking at like pure science fiction. This book takes a lot of topics like artificial intelligence, genetic modifications, the quantum field, quantum mechanics, all kinds of technology, solar panels, just all kinds of things. And it approaches it in 3 steps. So the first is tells you the concept and some kind of artsy or literature thing that predated its existence. And then it looks at what is. So what is that current technology? What are we doing with it? And then it starts to dabble in kind of what people have done with it, because people have always surprised each other with the directions they take certain things, right? Like, for example, when people created the internet and Wi-Fi, if you had to explain to them that people would spend most of their time looking at memes or dancing on TikTok or lip singing, and that's what they choose to do most of the time with the free Wi-Fi or whatever, it would kind of come as a surprise. So there's always that human element of surprise of what people do with that technology. And then there's the third, and the third is very interesting, and I think this is the looming part of this book, which is ethics and concepts for the future of what this kind of technology could do for humanity. And some of it is kind of gloomy, or it's a little bit scary, but for the most part, it's the ethical kind of questions around it that make it interesting. And I think that's the part that stays with you as you go through this book. So to give you an example, when it talks about genetic modifications, it says, okay, well, if you can decide before a baby is born what attributes you want it to have and not have, if you can genetically modify things like its skin tone or things that people find traditionally attractive, do you risk eliminating an entire race or cultural things or things from your actual ancestors? And do you get rid of something that's very human and very important to us as people? Just questions like that. So like it will take what you could do and then really starts asking questions. And those questions can really terrify you, like for the most part, especially when you get to talking about AI or the quantum field and things that frightened even Einstein himself. Now, in the early chapter, he looks at some futurism fallacies. So things that we kind of pretend to think we know about technology and people ahead of time, and we try to project, but it's not necessarily true. So for example, some people predicted technologies usually 50 years off in either direction, either too early or too much later. Another thing is you can never, you know, plan for the future. Like there are some things that are just unplanned for, and you can't say in advance that everything that will technologically happen in the future has been 100% planned. Some things just come out of accidents. There are also things like what humans do with it in general, and that we always think of technology as like kind of this linear thing, like you've improved from here to step B to step C and so on. But the truth is that it's kind of like a web. You have a few great thinkers, and then you have many great thinkers, and then many more great thinkers. So you have like this kind of amplified. So technological progress happens faster and faster and more all at once. And I think that's another very like looming point in this book, is that repeatedly throughout the chapters, Novella mentions, by the time you read this in this book, this has already become obsolete, or this is already too old. Like at the time I'm writing this computer, which is very high functioning, is already old. Like you've already gone into the future by the time you read the book itself. And that's kind of frightening, and it comes up again and again. I will mention that, again, this is more sciencey focused. It does deal a lot with philosophy and ethics as well, and some stuff does go over my head. However, it is certainly written to be accessible by people who are not scientists. Obviously, this is not condescending in any way, but it does try to explain it to people who are not, you know, pure science. Obviously, it will make you question your own humanity and like your consciousness, and it's kind of filled with hope and curiosity about the future, but you know, it can also be very creepy. And now you take things like the idea of having a brain in a liquid to live longer and into the future, and then you exist without a body or in a robotic body, and you're just a consciousness experiencing euphoria or feelings. Like, what is it to be a human in general? Like, are you just a consciousness experiencing feelings? There's so much there to unpack, and it's funny because it's not trying to be philosophical. It's just asking questions about technology, and in the process, it's just making you question so much about yourself and our humanity. Yeah, it can be chilling. I loved it very much. So would I recommend it? Absolutely. I think he has another book out as well. I have not read that one yet, so I can only vouch for this one. Highly recommend. There is an audiobook as well. Yeah, worth reading. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in a future video. Bye!